I'd always heard the warnings from my parents and friends. Don't stop on the highway at night. They said it was a matter of safety, a precaution against the unknown dangers that lurked in the darkness. But like most things in life, I learned the hard way that some warnings are not to be taken lightly. It was a moonless night when I found myself driving on a long, deserted highway. The headlights of my car cut through the inky blackness, and the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. I had been on the road for hours, and fatigue was gnawing at me like a persistent, unwelcome companion. My fuel gauge was approaching empty, and I was desperate to find a gas station. But there was no sign of civilization for miles, and the highway had become a desolate stretch of loneliness. I knew it was against the advice I had been given, but I decided to pull over at the next gas station, wherever it might be. After what felt like an eternity, I spotted a flickering neon sign in the distance. It was a gas station, or at least that's what the sign claimed. I couldn't see much beyond the glow of the sign, and the place seemed eerily quiet, but my fuel gauge was now in the red, and I couldn't afford to be picky. I turned into the station and parked at the lone pump. As I got out of my car, a sense of unease settled over me. The air was still, heavy with a strange metallic scent, and I could hear the distant hum of a generator somewhere nearby. The gas station itself was old and decrepit, the paint peeling and the windows caked with grime. It was a place forgotten by time, and I wondered if it was even still in operation. As I approached the pump, I noticed a flickering fluorescent light above it. The buzzing sound it emitted was unnerving, and it cast a sickly pallor over the area. I hesitated for a moment, my instincts telling me to turn and leave, but the desperation to refuel my car kept me rooted in place. I grabbed the pump's nozzle and was about to begin refueling when I heard a voice, a soft, plaintive whisper that seemed to drift from the shadows. "Help me." My heart raced as I looked around, trying to locate the source of the voice. There, at the edge of the gas station's flickering lights, stood a girl. She was young, no older than her late teens, with disheveled hair and tattered clothing. Her eyes held a deep, haunting sorrow. "Please, you have to help me," she implored, her voice trembling. I hesitated, torn between the impulse to flee and the pull of compassion. "What's wrong? How can I help you?" The girl took a step closer, and I could see the tears glistening in her eyes. "My car broke down, and I'm stranded here. I need a ride to the nearest town. Please, you're my only hope." I felt a swell of sympathy for her plight, and against my better judgment, I agreed to help. She climbed into my car, and as we pulled back onto the highway, her presence seemed to cast a shadow over my mind. She gave me directions to a small town a few miles away, but the journey felt eerie and unsettling. The darkness outside seemed to press in on us, and the silence within the car was suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As we approached the town, my unease deepened. The buildings appeared dilapidated, their windows dark and empty, and the streets were deserted. It was as if the entire town had been abandoned, frozen in time. The girl directed me to a desolate street and instructed me to stop the car. "This is where I live," she said. "Thank you for helping me." I watched as she stepped out of the car and began walking away. "Wait," I called out, a note of panic in my voice. "Where are you going? Is this the right place?" She turned to look at me, and in the dim light, I saw a sinister smile curling on her lips. "You shouldn't have stopped on the highway at night," she hissed. Before I could react, she disappeared into the darkness, leaving me alone in the eerie, abandoned town. I quickly realized that I had made a grave mistake. There was no town, no help, and no way to escape the creeping dread that enveloped me. I turned the car around and sped back down the highway, my heart pounding. The warning I had ignored had come to life in the most chilling way possible. The highway at night was not a place for the living, and I had narrowly escaped a fate I could only begin to imagine. As I drove, I couldn't help but wonder who or what the girl had been, and what sinister intentions had led me into that forsaken town. The darkness of that night had forever etched a cautionary tale into my mind. Never, under any circumstances, should you stop on the highway at night, for the dangers that lurk in the shadows are beyond comprehension, and the price of curiosity may be one's very soul.